Whenever I go to Washington, D.C., I like to visit the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. The reason why I like to visit it is to take the time to remember him for his sacrifice on advocating along with fighting for civil rights, including voting rights, to help protect minorities, people with disabilities, and gender from facing forms of discrimination. When I look at the statue of him or when I walk by, I take the time to look at it, to give me a pause to think to myself, what would he want for the world to be? To be honest, the world is broken still. We as a society have continued to see more discrimination and hate against minorities, people with disabilities, and gender. It is surprising that history has failed us, where we have repeated the same mistakes in the past, but we must also remember the importance of making civil rights, especially human rights, including people with disability rights, to be stronger, to reduce discrimination, and to even make voting rights stronger so it won't be weakened or oppressed. I also like taking the time to think of how Martin Luther King Jr. not only fought for civil rights, he was an advocate for people with disability rights, and he even wanted to combat against poverty, like supporting workers' rights, helping the poor or disadvantaged, and even trying to promote ideas of peace. As I'm at the memorial, I like to look at his quotes to myself to understand why he really fought for what he wanted to change the world for a better place, even if we're still broken, and to continue to play his quotes into my mind, knowing that there is a meaning to his work and has helped me continue to understand what his dream was to make a world a better place without discrimination, without hate, and even ways to reduce poverty and even further to stop racial injustice. As I take my time to explore his memorial in DC, I think to myself about what it's like having a disability, which is autism, including a learning disability, along with a cognitive disability, and how it is hard for me with a disability where I face discrimination in public places, in social groups, or in other settings. Also, I deal with hate because of my disability from people. Also, I try to understand how to navigate a world, including society, where they are filled with anti-disability stigma, which scares me the most. It is hard to find people who are advocates of people with disability rights, but as I come to learn about his life through my childhood to the present, I've come to appreciate and how Martin Luther King Jr. risked his life to fight for civil rights, especially people with disability rights, and even for social justice causes too. I've always tried to think of what does his speech mean, I have a dream speech. When I think of his speech, I try to think to myself, what kind of dream do I want the world to be? It's a long list, but I try to sort it out, where I would say, I have a dream that we can have equal rights without discrimination, a world where people with disabilities, including mine, can have equal rights without facing discrimination or hate, a place where we can have reduced poverty, where we can help the poor or disadvantaged with universal health care or other essential items, the importance of making social justice stronger, including combating against racial injustice, and promoting the need for human rights all over the world. That is my thought of what I Am a Dream speech means to me. In this memorial, I've always tried to be appreciative of how much his family have continued his legacy in advocating for civil rights, social justice, disability rights, ways to reduce poverty, and to even appreciate many of the other civil rights leaders who had joined him on this journey to try to make a world a better place. History can also be complicated too, because sometimes we fail to recognize people who want to make a world a better place, or who want to help people when they face struggles or are disadvantaged in communities, or even when people try to promote good things for society like civil rights, social justice, environmental protection, criminal justice reform, and even other ideas to improve social justice. But I hope that in history and in the near future, many people like me can recognize on how much Martin Luther King Jr. had worked really hard to make a world a better place, even if he had faced struggles in life, or when the world was tough on him, or when our society is slowly trying to improve. But we must not forget on the importance of his work, his legacy, and his ideas and his advocacy of reducing discrimination while helping our society go stronger on social justice ideas, combating against poverty, and to even promote human rights. We as a society must continue on his legacy, to not repeat the same mistakes in the past, but to make our future generations to live in a world where we cannot have hate, no discrimination, and good ideas to help improve society on social justice, including helping the poor.